with the disease caused by protozoans, right? So under this protozoan diseases, I told you we are going to discuss 4 diseases: malaria, amoebiosis, kala azar, and sleeping sickness. Okay. So the first disease, malaria, yesterday I started with. It is caused by the organism called as Plasmodium. 4 important species of Plasmodium are involved in causing this malaria in human. So I gave you the difference between those 4 different species of organisms. Then we discussed about the life cycle of Plasmodium, the asexual reproduction in man, and the sexual reproduction in mosquito. Okay. So we discussed, and we can move on to the, we didn't complete this malarial part. So let us complete this malaria and then we can start with this amoebiosis. Okay. So what are the leftover things under malaria? We have to see the control and treatment. Control, that is prevention, control methods and treatment. So now we are going to see the malaria control. How can you control this malaria? Fine. So malaria control methods. Now, you know, the generally control methods are, you can kill the mosquitoes. Okay. So killing the mosquitoes is one control method. Can control malaria. How can you kill the mosquitoes? By spraying. Mosquito is an insect that is going to carry the vector, that is going to carry the organism Plasmodium. So to kill the insects, you can spray insecticides. By spraying the insecticides, we can kill the mosquitoes, that so that we can control the malaria. Okay. And then for killing the developmental stages, actually mosquito in its larva form itself, we can kill them. So for killing the developmental stages, for killing the developmental stages of mosquitoes, we can spray, that is an oil film. Oil film can be applied on the oil film can be applied on the water surface, because mosquitoes mostly breed on the stagnant water, drainage water and all. Okay. So wherever mosquito breeding is high, we can spray this oil film, or we can apply this oil film on the water surface, so that the mosquitoes during the developmental stages, that is in the larva form, okay, it will be killed. So this oil film, how can it kill the larva? It prevents the breathing of larva and the pupa of mosquito, so that the adult mosquitoes will not develop, and we can control the breeding of mosquitoes in the stagnant water. Okay. Then other things, for preventing malaria, we can use some drugs called as prophylactic drugs. Prophylactic drugs. These drugs are used for preventing malaria. We can use these drugs for preventing malaria. Okay. So in addition to this, the mosquito bites can be prevented by using wire gauze. So in our homes, you would have seen like the wire gauze will be attached in the doors and windows of houses. Okay. Or by applying this, by placing this mosquito net, you can either fit this wire gauze or this mosquito net in the doors and windows, or else we can use the mosquito repellent creams. Odomas, like mosquito repellent creams are like, they are available in the shops. Okay. So these mosquito repellent creams are, they can be applied over the skin, so that the mosquitoes will not bite us. Okay. Mosquito repellent creams. So all these are some of the control methods for malaria. And in 1953, they launched one program with the help of World Health Organization. So under this program, district malaria officers were appointed, and there was nationwide spray of DDT. Okay, DDT, and free distribution of anti-malarial drugs. So let me tell you about this program. In 1953, The program is called as NMCP. So NMCP is National Malaria Control Program. National Malaria Control Program. This program, in collaboration with WHO, you know, this World Health Organization, okay? So they appointed district officers to control this malaria. At the same time, there was a nation-wide spray of DDT. DDT is a very good insecticide for controlling this malaria, okay? Nationwide spray of DDT, and also they distributed this anti-malarial drugs for free. Free distribution of anti-malarial drugs. Yeah, I'll show you the first slide. Wait, let me complete the control methods, then I will show you the first slide, okay? So this National Malaria Control Program, this program was launched in India in the year 1953. So this program, along with the help of WHO, they help in controlling measures of malaria by spraying this DDT all over the nation, and also the free distribution of anti-malarial drugs, okay? So malaria remained controlled for about 10 to 15 years, but started coming back because the mosquitoes, they became resistant to DDT. In one period, what happened? The mosquitoes became resistant to DDT, and the only answer for irradiation of malaria is to develop the vaccine against it. Okay, so let us see the treatment methods. So what are the treatment given for malaria patients? The treatment for malaria. So the most important drug that was given for malaria is the quinine drug. This quinine drug, actually, it was taken from the bark of cinchona tree. This cinchona tree is one type of gymnosperm tree, and from this bark of cinchona tree, this quinine drug was isolated and it was given as a medicine for treating this malaria. From this quinine drug, many other derivatives were taken. Okay, so from quinine, it has been changed to chloroquine, okay, chloroquine, and then primaquine. All these are derivatives of this quinine drug. Chloroquine, primaquine, and then mefloquine. All these are the additional derivatives derived from quinine, which is used for the treatment of malaria. Okay, and finally ending up with, I told you some days, important days are there in this chapter. So based on that, the malaria day, let me write here. Okay, so the malaria day is on 25th April. So starting from the year 2007, they were they announced this malaria day as 25th April, and mosquito day. Mosquito day is on 13th May. Okay, so these 2 days also important under this malaria. Yeah, hydrochloroquine. It is also one type of product which is taken from this quinine drug. So nowadays, to treat this coronavirus, one famous drug was hydrochloroquine. This drug you would have been heard in the news channels and all. They are talking about this hydrochloroquine, which is like our India is manufacturing it, and it is supplied to many countries. Okay, so this hydrochloroquine is also one of the derivative of this quinine. Okay, fine. So that's all about malaria. Malaria is over with this. Now I will show you the first 2 slides. So this is the second slide, students. You first copy this information in the second slide, then I will show you the first slide. So this is the first slide. If you want to copy the notes of first slide, you can copy now. Next, we can move on to amoebiasis. Okay. So malarial disease is over. Only for malaria, we will have a detailed information. For other things, we won't be discussing about the life cycle of organism, treatment and control methods and all directly. That is, we will see only the causative organism and the important things regarding to that. Okay. The first slide. This is the second slide. Okay, fine. So now we can move on to the next protozoal disease, that is amoebiasis. So please put down the topic as amoebiasis. Now the second protozoal disease we are going to discuss is amoebiasis. Okay, fine. So I told you the other name for amoebiasis is amoebic dysentery. Amoebic dysentery is the other name for amoebiasis. Okay, right. So as we said, like the important species that causes malaria is Plasmodium. Similarly, the important species that causes amoebiasis is said to be Entamoeba histolytica. Entamoeba histolytica. This Entamoeba histolytica is the causative organism for this amoebiasis. Causative organism, protozoal organism that causes this amoebiasis. Okay, right. Now, in this Entamoeba species, we have two more species. Just for information, I will tell you. Actually, it is not needed. In this Entamoeba histolytica, we have two more species, right? One is called as Entamoeba gingivalis. Another one is Entamoeba coli. So don't think it is Escherichia coli. Okay, it is not that E. coli. This is Entamoeba coli organism. So I am talking about the Entamoeba species organism, right? So don't think E. coli means it is a bacteria. E. coli, Escherichia coli is a bacterial organism. We are talking about protozoa. So this protozoa is Entamoeba coli. These are the other two species, but these two species are not the causative organism for amoebiasis. So let me tell you what disease they will cause. Just for the additional information, you just get to know this gingivalis. No, it causes pyuria. Pyuria is a type of tooth decay. Okay, it is a type of tooth decay in the cavities of your teeth. This pyuria, there will be some bacterial or this protozoal organism will go and deposit, and it will causes the decay in your teeth. Okay, which will causes tooth pain and many problems in your teeth. And this type of disease is called as pyuria, right? And this Entamoeba coli, actually, it will not causes any disease in human. It is actually said to be it is a neutral organism which will be present in our neutral organism. Means it will neither give benefit nor it will be causing disease in the human. So this neutral organism can be called as commensals. You will be studying about this commensal in organism and population chapter in ecology. Now you just write down neutral organism means it neither gives benefit to the host nor it will affect to the host. Okay, so this Entamoeba coli, it will be present in the colon region, in the colon of animals. So whichever organism present in the colon, it will be given the species name called as coli. Okay, that E. coli bacteria, no, that is also present in our large intestine, small intestine, that is in the colon region. That's why that bacteria is called as E. coli. Okay, here this Entamoeba coli, it is also present in the colon of animals, and it is a neutral organism. It will not cause disease. At the same time, it is not beneficial to us. Okay, if it is beneficial to us, then you can say mutualism. It is not beneficial. So it is neutral. That's why it is called as commensals. Okay. So now talking about this amoebiasis, our target organism is this one, Entamoeba histolytica, because we are going to talk about amoebiasis disease, not about this pyuria and this organism. I just for additional information, I gave you what are the other species available in this Entamoeba. Okay. Right. Now, this Entamoeba histolytica, what is this organism? This organism will be present in our human gut. Okay. So it will be Entamoeba histolytica. It will be present in the human gut. You know what do you mean by gut? It is alimentary canal. Okay. Right. And this parasite, it is said to be a monogenetic parasite. Before that, in Plasmodium, I told it is a digenetic parasite. Digenetic parasite means what I told, it will depend upon two different hosts. Monogenetic parasite means only one host, and that host is man. It will not have any other vector. Okay. And this will be human gut. Mainly, it will be present in the large intestine. This Entamoeba coli in the alimentary canal, mainly it will be present in the large intestine. And in the large intestine, mainly it will be present in the colon region. Okay. So human gut is the location where this organism will be present in the human body. In the large intestine, mainly colon region. And it is a monogenetic parasite. It depends upon only one host. That one host is only man. Okay. And in the large intestine, this Entamoeba coli, it reproduces asexually. Okay. In the first chapter, reproduction in organism, we discussed about amoeba. It was given an example for which type of asexual reproduction. Can you give your answers? What fission? What fission? Fission is correct. Only binary fission. Amoeba can undergo both binary fission and also multiple fission. Okay. But this amoeba, this Entamoeba histolytica in the human body, it reproduces asexually mostly by binary fission process. Okay. Generally, amoeba undergoes binary fission and also multiple fission. Okay. But in human intestine, it undergoes mostly binary fission process. Okay. There is no sexual reproduction in Entamoeba histolytica. No sexual reproduction at all. Okay. Only asexual reproduction. No sexual reproduction in Entamoeba histolytica. It undergoes only asexual reproduction, and that is by means of binary fission process. Okay. So the life cycle of the parasite will be completed in only one host because it is not dependent on two hosts. So the entire life cycle will be completed in the single host, that is in the human. Okay. So up to this thing, it is enough for you. You need not to you just know the what is the infective stage of this Entamoeba coli for human. So the infective stage for Plasmodium in human is, yesterday we discussed sporozoites. Okay. Similarly, the infective stage of Entamoeba in man is tetra. Tetra means you know 4. Tetranucleated cyst. Okay. There in Plasmodium, the infective stage is called as sporozoites. That is, in which stage it will enter into the body. Similarly, the infective stage of Entamoeba in man, it will enter into the body in the stage of tetranucleated cyst. Okay. And what is the mode of infection? So how it will enter? I told you it is not going to use any vector. Fine. If vector is there like mosquito or any other organism, if that vector organism bite you, then the causative organism will enter into the body. Here there is no vector for Entamoeba. Then what is the mode of infection? The mode of infection is it will enter into the body through contaminated food and contaminated water. Okay. So in street food, and then in house itself, you cannot say you will get amoebiasis only if you eat food from outside. Sometimes even in our house, if we are not closing our food containers, even inside the refrigerator, whatever food particles you change in the container and you keep it in the fridge, you have to close it. Like the container should be properly closed inside the refrigerator also. Why? Because when you open the fridge, right, the microorganisms which are present in the air, it will enter into it. Okay. And once the food particles are kept open, then the microorganism will enter into the that food particle, and sometimes there will be power cut. Okay. During this power cut, the temperature will not be in a low condition. The temperature automatically, it will not be cool. then it will be suitable for the microorganism to multiply in your food particles. Okay, then it will what it will do, it will start multiplying in the food, and it will secreting some toxic enzymes and all. And when you are intaking that food, the infective stage of organism will enter into your body and it will cause the infection. Okay, so the mode of infection for this amoebiasis is contaminated food and water. Okay, so this is the main thing you should know about this amoebiasis. And finally, I will tell you what happens if the infected organism enters into your body. I told you it will enter into the body in the form of tetranucleated cyst. Okay, so this organism, how it will causes infection? So this entamoeba organism, it will feeds. Once when it reaches the intestine, it will feeds on the gut wall of our gut or alimentary canal. Okay, it will start feeds on means it will start eating the gut wall, and it will form ulcer, Okay, ulcers, you know, right? Sores, punnan solvom, right? It will form ulcers, and later what will happen? Later it will get filled with abscess. Abscess means some toxic materials. Okay, so abscess, and first this entamoeba will enter into your body and it will form ulcer. Later it will get filled with abscess, and this abscess will be followed up by some secondary bacterial infection. Along with this protozoal infection, some bacterial infection will also be caused because of this entry of entamoeba. Okay, so this entamoeba, it not only causes infection. Along with this entamoeba, as it feeds on the gut wall and forms ulcer, and later bacterial infection also start occurring. And this abscess, I told you, right, it will be filled with some fluids or something. It will be having some white color crystals. In the white crystals will be formed in the ulcer, and that is called as abscess, which later lead to secondary bacterial infection. And now what happens, as it is continuously feeding on the gut wall, the mucus and blood, there will be rupturing in the wall of your alimentary canal, and because of this rupturing, mucus and blood start coming from the gut wall. Okay, from the gut. Okay, as a result of this continuous feeding on the gut wall, mucus and blood will start coming from the gut, and this mucus and blood, it will be mucus and blood, it will be present in the stool. You know, that is the feces. Okay, so in the feces, this mucus and blood, you would have noticed in dysentery, diarrhea is loosey watery stool. Okay, but in dysentery, the stool will be watery. At the same time, mucus and blood will be present. If blood is present in the stool, then it is called as dysentery. So this blood, how it comes? Because in the sense, this entamoeba, when it is continuously feeding on the gut wall will get ruptured. As a result of rupturing, the mucus and blood will start coming out, oozing out from the gut, and this will get, it will get mixed up with your stool. And finally, when the person is excreting the feces, and the mucus and blood will also be present in the feces, and this condition, when mucus and blood is present in the feces, and that is called as the amoebic dysentery. And this condition is called as amoebic dysentery condition. Okay, right. So under this amoebiasis, we have different types of amoebiasis. So Entamoeba histolytica, it causes amoebiasis based on the target organ. Sometimes that amoeba, you know this, you need not to know in depth about these concepts. The different types of amoebiasis, I'll just list down. There is hepatic amoebiasis. Sometimes Entamoeba histolytica may causes infection in the liver. If it causes infection in the liver, then it is called as hepatic amoebiasis. Sometimes it will causes infection in the lungs. If it occurs in the lungs, then it is called as pulmonary amoebiasis. Okay. and sometimes it may causes the infection in brain. If it causes infection in brain, then it is called as cerebral amoebiasis. Okay, and it may causes infection in the spleen also, then it is called as splenic amoebiasis. All these are different types of amoebiasis caused by the same causative organism Entamoeba histolytica, but the target organ will be different in some cases. So instead of going to intestine and causing the infection, sometimes it will causes the infection in liver, lungs, brain and spleen and all. So these are the different things. Okay, fine. So finally, what is the prevention control methods by the mode of infection? You itself can tell. I'll write here prevention and control methods. The prevention and control methods for amoebiasis. As the amoebiasis infection is occurring through contaminated food and water. So the best thing is you have to dispose the sewage properly. There should be proper disposal of sewage. Okay, proper disposal of sewage should be there. There should not be open dustbins, open disposal of sewage. Okay, and then cut fruits and vegetables. You should not buy any cut fruits and vegetables. If you go to vegetable shops, okay, watermelons and many other fruits, no, you can see like half will be there and they would have covered with some polythene wrap. Okay, and it is not at all protective. So you have to buy the whole vegetable or fruit. You should not buy the cut vegetables and fruits. Cut vegetables and fruits should be avoided. Should be avoided. They should not be bought. And the last one, in our house, let me write the last point here. The last preventive and control method is, see, the contamination of food and water is the main mode of infection. So the contamination mainly occurs through houseflies. You know, right? So houseflies, if they sit on food particles, it will easily contaminate because it is like it will go and sit on somewhere and again it will sit on our food particles. So this houseflies and cockroaches should be properly checked in our houses. Should be properly checked. They should not be allowed to contaminate our food. Okay, they should be properly checked. Houseflies and cockroaches should not be present in the houses. Okay, right. So these are the prevention and control methods. This is enough, ma. You need not to study about the treatment and all, because the treatment and all, the drugs and all not needed for this amoebiasis. Only the treatment is needed for your malaria. Okay. You just copy this one. Amoebiasis, see, amoebiasis actually, if it is sometimes, it is a normal one. It is not highly pathogenic disease, but it depends upon which organ it is infecting. Suppose if it is infecting the brain, then it is difficult to cure. Okay, sometimes the condition may be prone to chronic condition. If it is in the acute condition, then you can easily cure it. Okay, so if it is a chronic condition, then it will be difficult to cure. No, houseflies do not act as a vector. Okay, see, actually the vector, we don't have vector, because vector in the sense like it should inject the organism directly inside your body. Houseflies will not come and bite you. It will not give the organism directly inside your body. How the organism will enter into the body? Only when you are taking the contaminated food and water. Through the food and water, the organism will enter. So the houseflies which carry the organism, it will not organism directly, it will carry the cyst. Okay, the tetranucleated cyst that will it will be present in the excreta, feces, or in the sewage and all. So houseflies will go and sit over those things and all. Again, it will, if it come and sit over our food particle, then the tetranucleated cyst will be released in our food, and when you are intaking that food, the cyst will enter into your body and it will cause us the infection. Okay. Yeah, they can be called as carriers, but it is, they can be called as carriers of protozoa. Okay, but you cannot say it is a vector for us. Okay, they are simply carriers of, see, generally many organisms will carry the microorganism and so they will act as a carrier. But all the organisms will not directly infect us by getting into our body. Okay, so this houseflies and cockroaches, they will carry and they will release the infective stage of this entamoeba tetranucleated cyst. They will release them in the food or in the water. When we are intaking that food and water, that cyst will enter into our body and it will cause us the infection, right? So I will show you this amoebiasis slide again. All the 3 slides of amoebiasis. No, amoebiasis, we don't have vaccine. We don't have vaccine. Only proper hygiene is the best method to control this amoebiasis. Okay. This is the first slide of amoebiasis, ma. I am showing you all the slides of amoebiasis. Please copy it fastly. Spleen. Spleen you don't know. You studied human physiology, right? Spleen is an organ where your RBC cells. See, in many places you would have studied. Spleen is the where the destruction of RBCs will take place. It is called as the graveyard of RBC. You didn't study in human physiology, body fluids and circulation. Yes. This is the second slide. Yeah, graveyard of RBCs. Spleen is having 2 nicknames. One is called as graveyard of RBC because RBC, once its lifespan is getting over, it will go and destruct in the spleen. The second thing, if you are having excessive hemoglobin in your body, it will be deposited, it will be stored in your spleen. So it is also called as blood bank of body. Okay. Suppose if a person is facing any accident, blood is lost from his body. So you know how much liters of blood is circulating in our body, right? 5 to 6 liters. And in an accident, suppose if a person is losing some 1 liter of blood, immediately that 1 liter will be compensated by the spleen. Spleen will be always having this storage of RBCs. Once if your body loses the RBC cell, immediately it will be compensated. So it is also called as blood bank of human body and also graveyard of RBC. Okay. So copied all the 3. Third, this is third one, fourth one, fifth one. Okay, right. Now we can move on to the remaining 2. Remaining 2 diseases we are not going to discuss in detail, just the causative organism, that's it. Okay, fine. So the third disease is Kala-Azar disease. Kala-Azar disease. Okay, so this is the third protozoal disease. This Kala-Azar disease is having another name that is called as different names. It is having so many names. One is dum-dum fever. It is called as dum-dum fever. Also, this disease is called as leishmaniasis. Leishmaniasis. Okay. And then it is also called as oriental sore. Oriental sore. Also said to be Delhi boil. Okay, all these are names of your Kala-Azar disease. Okay, now coming to the causative organism. So what is the causative organism of this Kala-Azar disease? Anybody have idea about the causative organism? What is the causative organism that causes? Here in the other names of the Kala-Azar itself, that organism is there. If you can guess. Yes, very good. See, leishmaniasis, right? Like amoebiasis. Amoeba causes a disease called as amoebiasis. Similarly, the disease leishmaniasis is caused by the organism Leishmania. But please write the full name. See, always you should know the full name because in your NEET exams, sometimes they will give you option. 2 options will be there with the same genus Leishmania. Only the species will differ. There if you are reading, if you are studying only Leishmania, suppose they are giving one more option with the Leishmania and some other species name, then you will get a confusion. So please study from the starting. I am giving you the full name. Okay. So malaria I gave you Plasmodium vivax, oval, malaria and Plasmodium falciparum. For amoebiasis, the full name of organism is Entamoeba histolytica, right? And causative organism for Kala-Azar disease is Leishmania donovani. V, this is V, not R, okay? Leishmania donovani, and this organism is a flagellate protozoa. It is a flagellate. We are seeing protozoan diseases, and in particular it will have flagella. So it is called as flagellated protozoa, and this parasite, it is a digenetic again. So first plasmodium is digenetic, and then amoeba is monogenetic. Now here it is digenetic, so it is going to have two hosts. So what are the two hosts? As usual, one host will be man, because we are studying about the diseases in human. And the second host is sandfly. Okay, here man is the primary host because he will get the infection, and sandfly is the secondary host, and that is the vector. Sandfly is the vector. Okay, if you want to know the biological name of sandfly, I will write here. Sometimes it has been asked in JIPMER exams. Okay, in JIPMER exams it has been asked what is the biological name of sandfly. Sandfly is called as Phlebotomus. The biological name of sandfly is Phlebotomus. Okay, so primary host is man and the secondary host is sandfly. So the other species of leishmania which causes this disease, one more species I will tell you, that is leishmania. That is what I told you. Actually the main thing is Kala Azar. Okay, so leishmania tropica, this can also causes the disease. Okay, leishmania donovani, leishmania tropica. That's it. That's all about your Kala Azar disease, ma. You need not to know any other information about this Kala Azar disease. This is enough for this. These are the names, the different names of Kala Azar disease. Okay, and the causative organism is this. Also, this Leishmania tropica. It is a flagellate protozoa. It is a digenetic parasite. Two hosts. One host is man, other host is sandfly. Biological name of sandfly is Phlebotomus, which is act as a vector carrying this organism, and the primary host is said to be man. No need, not needed. You know, like no need of reading preventive measures, control, treatment, anything for this. Okay. Hereafter, you will be reading only these things, causative organism, and the needed information I will give you. Okay. Fine. So the last one, what we are going to see, the fourth disease in protozoal disease is sleeping sickness. Sleeping sickness. So under the sleeping sickness, in particular, we are going to see about African sleeping sickness. Because in sleeping sickness, we have different African sleeping sickness, American sleeping sickness, Italian sleeping sickness, so many things are there. So I'm going to talk about the African because this is the common sleeping sickness. Okay. So African sleeping sickness, it is also again caused by a flagellate protozoa. It is also a flagellate protozoan. It is also a digenetic parasite. And the name of the organism that causes this is Trypanosoma. Actually, this Trypanosoma species, different species of Trypanosoma causes this African, American, Italian sleeping sickness and all. So in this particular African sleeping sickness is caused by Trypanosoma gambians. So this Trypanosoma gambians is a flagellate protozoa. It is a digenetic parasite. Again coming here, digenetic parasite, what are the two hosts? One is man and other one is CC fly. It is called as CC fly. T is silent. You should not pronounce this T. C, S-E-C, S-E-C, CC fly. The biological name of CC fly is Glossina palpalis. This is the biological name. This is also very important. Biological name of CC fly is Glossina palpalis, and man is the primary host. CC fly is the secondary host. Okay, that's it. This is enough for your sleeping sickness. Fine. So protozoal diseases are over with this. Next, we are going to move on to the diseases caused by helminths. I think it is possible to complete helminths because under helminths, we are just going to discuss only two diseases. So we can complete those two diseases today itself. Okay. So once if you have copied this, then put the heading. The second diseases part, what we are going to see is diseases caused by helminthus. Already I told you what do you mean by helminthus. Helminthus means worms. That is the flatworms, roundworms, all sort of this platyhelminthus and aschelminthus, right? So they are said to be the worms that causing the disease. Okay, right. So under these two diseases we are going to discuss. The first disease what we are going to see is ascariasis. Yes, by the name itself, you can guess what is the causative organism. It is caused by an aschelminthus. It is caused by aschelminthus organism. So the name of the aschelminthus organism is Ascaris lumbricoides. Ascaris lumbricoides is the full name of this Ascaris. It is commonly called as roundworm. Ascaris lumbricoides is commonly called as roundworm. Okay, so this is the causative organism commonly called as roundworm. And this organism, let me tell you, it is a monogenetic parasite. It is not digenetic parasite. It is a monogenetic parasite. That is, it depends on only human as a host. Okay, and this will be present in the small intestine. In our human body, it will be present in the small intestine of human, particularly children. This roundworm will be mostly present in the children. As the children used to have more candy, sweets, chocolates and all, this roundworm will be mostly present in the children. And what is the infective stage of this? See, infective stage I am giving only in some diseases. It means the questions will be there only from these disease. Okay, you need not to worry about other disease where I am not giving this infective stage. So the infective stage of this organism is said to be embryonated egg. The infective stage is embryonated egg. Okay, so this is very important. The infective stage of Ascaris is embryonated egg, right? And the mode of infection. So what is the mode of infection? When it is going to be a monogenetic parasite, no other vector will be there. No mosquito, no CC fly, no sandfly, nothing. Then the mode of infection is again like amoebiasis. It will also enter into the body through contaminated food and water. It enters into the body through contaminated food and water. Okay. So what are the symptoms of ascariasis? Here symptoms are important. So let me tell you the symptoms. If you get this ascariasis, what are the symptoms that you will be faced? Okay. Mainly gastrointestinal problem will be there. Gastrointestinal problem means mainly it will affect our intestine and stomach. Okay. There will be severe stomach upset. So gastrointestinal problems will be there, and the roundworms know they keep on eating your blood cells, and so the person will be anemic. So anemia is also one of the symptoms. You can see in children sometimes if they are having these worms in their body, that is in the stomach, they will not put weight. They will be looking very thin and they will be anemic also, right? And there will be, I told you, right, RBC cells will get reduced. So that condition is called as eosinophilia. Eosinophilia. Okay, eosinophils, you know, one type of WBC. Okay, under WBC you have studied basophils, eosinophils and neutrophils. This eosinophil will also get decreased, and there will be severe abdominal pain. The children will be suffering with pain frequently. Lower abdomen will be paining severely, and sometimes there will be blockage of intestine. Intestine blockage will be there. That is for 2 or 3 days they will not excrete. Okay, so because of no excretion of feces, they will get abdominal pain. So all these are said to be the symptoms of your ascariasis. Okay, so the first one, ascariasis, is caused by an organism that belongs to phylum Aschelminthus, that is roundworm called as Ascaris lumbricoides. It is a monogenetic parasite. It lives in the small intestine of human, particularly children. The infective stage is called as embryonated egg. The mode of infection is through contaminated food and water. It is not infected through what is that vector. Okay, yeah, it can be easily cured. Simply some drugs will be given, and those drugs if we intake, பூச்சி மாத்திரை சொல்லுவாங்கல்ல, right? So for small children, every 3 months, doctors will advise us to give us Puchi Matra, right? So these drugs, no, it will go and kill the worms present in the intestine. Okay, it is easily curable. It is not a very risky disease. Okay, symptoms includes gastrointestinal problem, anemia, eosinophilia, abdominal pain, and blockage of intestine. That's all. That's all about your ascariasis. So now we can discuss about filariasis. The second worm disease, what we are going to discuss is filariasis. This filariasis is having another name commonly called as elephantiasis. It is Yanekal Vyadi, you know, right? You would have heard about this. Filariasis is the exact term, but because of the persons having this disease, they will have a big leg like elephant. It is called as elephantiasis. Okay, so this is also again caused by an organism that belongs to Ascalminthus. This is also a Ascalminth parasite, and the name of the organism Ascalminth parasite is, it is common name is filarial worm. There it is roundworm, right? This is commonly called as filarial worm, and the biological name of this is very, very, very important. One is Wuchereria bancrofti. This organism also causes this filariasis, and one more organism under this species, or you know, what is the other one is Wuchereria bancrofti. Sorry students, sorry for the interruption, right? So this parasite is also a digenetic parasite. Ascariasis is a monogenetic parasite, right? This Wuchereria, it is not a monogenetic, it is a digenetic parasite. Digenetic in the sense it is going to have two hosts. Fine. So what are the two hosts? One will be man, the primary host, and the second is mosquito again. Again mosquito. So now this time the mosquito is not Anopheles mosquito, it is female Culex mosquito. It is female Culex. The species of mosquito is different now. It is female Culex mosquito, not the female Anopheles mosquito. Okay. So please keep it in mind. This mosquito is the vector and it is the carrier and it is the secondary host for this parasite, that is filarial worm. Okay. So mosquito female, so primary host is human and the secondary host is the female Culex mosquito. Now I will tell you what is the infective stage. Okay. The infective stage is, the infective stage of this filarial worm is microfilariae. Infective stage is microfilariae. Please study all the infective stages correctly, ma. They are very, very important. Okay. Infective stage is microfilariae, and this infective stage will enter into the human body through the bite of this female Culex mosquitoes. The female Culex mosquito, which is carrying this organism, if it bites a normal person, then the infective stage microfilariae, it will enter into the human body through the bite of this female mosquito, right? Now, the main organ where this infective stage will causes the infection. Ascariasis, I told you it will be present in the small intestine. Here, filariasis, it will not be present in the intestine. It will causes infection. Infection will be caused in lymphatic vessels, not in the intestine. Okay. The infection of this filariasis will be caused in the lymphatic vessels. This is a very important neat question. So now I will tell you what are the symptoms if you get the infection in the lymphatic vessels. So what are the symptoms that will happen? Okay. So the symptoms of filariasis, it includes, there will be chronic inflammation. Chronic means severe. Okay. there will be severe inflammation, chronic inflammation of the limbs, that is your hind limbs, your legs, okay, starting from the scrotum, you know, right? The male testis will be present in a bag called the scrotum. Starting from that region, there will be severe chronic inflammation of the limbs and also in the genital organ, okay, that is what called the scrotum, genitals, both in the male, in the sense it will be, the inflammation will be there from the scrotum. In the female, in the sense from the like leg, from the starting of the thighs, there will be severe inflammation. Why this chronic inflammation is taking place? Because of, due to accumulation of lymph, due to accumulation or retention of lymph, they will be having severe swelling or inflammation in the limb region and in the genital region, okay. So this is the major symptom that will occur in filariasis, okay. And also there is deformity in the lower limbs, okay. There will be deformity. What do you mean by deformity? There will not be proper functions, that is, you cannot move your limbs properly, movements will be affected, that is called as deformities. The function that takes place in your limbs is movement, okay. So this movement will be affected, okay. It can be cured, ma. Filariasis can be cured by drugs. It is a curable disease only, don't worry, it is a curable disease, okay, fine. So these are the things that you have to know about filariasis. I will show you the helminthes slides again. So this is where we started the helminthes part. Aedes mosquito will causes dengue, chikungunya, those disease, okay. So diseases caused by helminthes. The first one is ascariasis. I think already you have taken the notes for this. I'll show you the second one, filariasis. You please copy this 9th slide. Okay, so the continuation of filariasis. Okay, I'll show you all the slides from the beginning, ma. Dengue, chikungunya are viral disease. You will study, don't worry. Dengue, chikungunya, all those diseases we will study under the diseases caused by viruses, okay. No, it will, that is, see, suppose some organism will causes high temperature. Some organism will not causes the temperature in your body. Okay. In filariasis, sometimes the person will be affected with fever. So I'll show you from the beginning. I think the last few more minutes, last 3 more minutes. So let me show you from this first slide. So the leftover things are bacterial disease, fungal disease, bacterial disease, and viral diseases. Okay. Tomorrow we'll try to complete all the 3: fungal diseases, bacterial diseases, and viral diseases, so that the next day, because for AIDS, 1 day, 1 hour it will take completely, and for cancer also it will take 1 day completely. So this week I will try to complete the diseases part, okay. Yeah, see, sleeping sickness, it will cause us fever, but it is also not only a fever. One of the symptoms is fever. So first slide, second one, I will show you all the slides. First one, ma, this is the first one. Second one, helminthic diseases, so many diseases are there. It can be caused by both platyhelminthes and also ascalminthes. But here we discuss 2 diseases, and both those diseases will be caused by only ascalminthes. Malarial symptom what? Malarial symptom, high fever. That's what I told you. The first symptom of malaria will be occurred once when they come to the plasma. This is the third slide. This is the fourth one. Symptoms of amoebiasis. There will be dysentery. That is what I told you. Mucus and blood will be passed in your stools. Severe abdominal pain will be there. Stomach upset. All those are symptoms of amoebiasis. Fifth slide. This is fifth one. Third slide. Okay, some students asked me to show you the third slide. This is third one. This is third one. Please copy fastly. Fourth one. In Kala-Azar disease, there will be severe sores all over your skin. So some students are not having idea about Kala-Azar. If a person is infected with Kala-Azar disease, all over his body, severe ulcer, boils will be there. Okay, sores or boils will be there. The boils will be very, very big. Okay, starting from the scalp of the head till the feet, everywhere there will be severe boils, severe irritation, reddish patches. It will be mainly affecting your skin. This is fifth one. Sixth one. Sixth one. That's what I told you, Ma. In elephantiasis, I told you, right, due to lymph accumulation. The infection will take place in your lymphatic vessels, and what will happen, your lymph should go and mix with your bloodstream, but in this filariasis the lymph will get accumulate in your limbs itself. That will lead to the big feet, giant feet in elephantiasis. If fluid accumulation is there in any part of your body, automatically swelling or inflammation will be there. So lymph is said to be one type of fluid, right? So if this fluid accumulate in your limbs, automatically the legs will become swollen. Eighth one. Ninth one. And the last slide, 10th one. Okay, I don't know, like whether it started in Kolkata, that's why it is given the name Dum Dum. You are telling about the airport in Kolkata, am I right? So, but I don't know whether it is because of that it has been given the name. I will refer and tell you that. Eighth slide. So one student asked me to show the eighth and ninth. Okay, I'll show you, Ma. Eighth slide. This is eighth one. And this is ninth one. Okay, students, I will give stop share. Okay, we'll meet tomorrow. We'll finish it off all the remaining diseases by tomorrow. Okay, thank you. Take care. Bye bye. Seventh one. Okay, this is seventh, Ma. Got it? Yes. Thank you.